Hey everybody, my name is Gardiner, your friendly neighborhood developer advocate with Linode. Today I wanted to walk through the steps of creating a managed MongoDB database cluster, and we're going to create a simple form that'll allow you to accept like support tickets or something like that. Just a fun little project on how to create, read, update, and destroy data that's in your managed database. So let's get into it. So it should be noted that MongoDB is my favorite and preferred database, and PHP is actually my preferred server-side language. So we're going to be using the PHP driver for MongoDB in order to actually access this database. So let's jump into this. The first thing that we're going to want to do is actually log into the Linode Cloud dashboard. Then we're going to go over here to databases. We're going to create a database cluster. We're going to give it a name. We'll just say MongoDemo. We're going to select a database engine, and in our case, we're just going to select the latest version of MongoDB. Let's pick Newark, New Jersey, because I'm in the Northeast United States. And then we can choose a plan here. Now, this Linode plan, we're just going to go with the dedicated 4 GB Linode. And we're almost done here. The last two options, we're going to choose the number of nodes that we actually want in our cluster. We can choose 1 node, or we can choose 3. Now, the 3 nodes are for high availability purposes. If you have 1 node in your cluster that goes down for maintenance or for any other reason, then you're going to have high availability with 2 other nodes. Redundancy. And then we're actually going to need to create an allowed list of IP addresses that are able to access this database. I'm going to go ahead and get my IP address for my local server here. I'm going to be using my local development machine in order to actually write these scripts that we're going to use later on. So I'll go ahead and copy my IP address here, and I'm going to paste that in here, and we're going to hit create database. Now this should take 15 to 30 minutes to provision, and that's all right. While that's provisioning, let's go ahead and open up our code application, and then let's open up our working directory that we're going to use to develop this quick little application here. So the first thing we're going to want to do is create a PHP file that allows us to import all of the annoying stuff. It's basically boilerplate. So I'm just going to call it env.php. This is going to be where we put all of our boilerplate stuff, essentially invoking our auto load and that sort of thing. So the next thing we should do is actually install Composer. If you don't have that, it's pretty simple on Ubuntu. You can just do sudo apt install Composer. I already have Composer installed. So we're going to type in Composer require MongoDB / MongoDB. So if we go over here, now you can see we have vendor with composer.json and composer.lock. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say require, and we're going to say vendor, and we're going to do autoload.php here. So we're going to do autoload.php. And now we have everything that we need in order to actually access MongoDB. And you're also going to need to install the MongoDB extension in PHP. And if you're on Ubuntu, you can actually do sudo apt install php-mongodb. And if you have a specific version of PHP that you're running, you're going to want to do like 8.1 or whatever version you're running. All right, it took about 24 minutes to actually create this cluster. And I don't know if I said it already, but this is still actually in beta. MongoDB Managed Databases are still in beta on Linode right now, but it should have general availability coming fairly soon. And if you want access to the beta, you can submit a support ticket to Linode support. So now let's go ahead and actually create our environment. So let's switch over to our browser and just copy the host name from the provisioned database. db host equals, and then we're going to put the host name in there. Then we're going to go over here again. We're going to grab our username. We're going to say db user equals, and we're say db pwd equals, and we'll paste that in here. We're going to copy that, and then we're going to do db port equals blah. Okay. So you can see here that we actually have SSL enabled. So we're going to go ahead and download the CA certificate here. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to put the SSL file in the same directory with the rest of this. But if you were actually doing this, you would not want to do that. If you put it in the same directory, anyone will be able to download the CA file, and you don't want that. That's a recipe for a bad time. But for the purposes of this video, just to speed things along, I'm going to do that. We're going to rename it to cert.cert. Right here, we're just going to do cert.crt. So now we have all the components that we need to access our database. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our client. Now this is going to be the thing that reaches out to the managed database, it instantiates the connection, and everything we do with the database derives from this client object. So we're just going to say client. We're going to do MongoDB : // and then we're going to do DB host : DB port. And then we're going to create an array for options here. And we're going to have a few of them. We're going to have DB username. Oh, no, we're just going to have username, sorry. DB user. We're going to have password. And that's going to be DB PWD. And then down here, we're going to have SSL true. We're going to have SSL CA file. It's going to be SSL file. And we're going to do SSL allow invalid certificates true. Because right now this certificate is self-signed. So otherwise we're not gonna have a good time. And then in order to test this connection, let's actually do var dump client list databases. All right, now if we go back here, we should be able to refresh, and there we go. We have, these are the clients that are, or these are the databases that are actually in the remote database, which is pretty awesome to see. So now we don't need this anymore. So we'll just comment that out because we might need it for testing later. Collection equals client tickets current. So if you're not familiar, MongoDB is actually slightly different than something like a SQL database. You have your database, which is a group of collections, and then the collection is going to be a group of documents. But the difference is you don't need to create a schema or anything like that, and you don't have to do migrations. You just have to specify what you want to put in a document, and there you go. It's pretty straightforward. It's really good for rapid prototyping as well. So off camera, I prepared this file. It's called form.html. Essentially what it does is it takes the information that we put in here in these input fields and the text area, and then it submits it with a post request to insert.php. Speaking of, let's actually make insert.php. So we're going to go insert.php, and we'll open our PHP tag. We're going to include our env.php file. So we're going to say if server HTTP method does not equal post, and we're going to say no data submitted, and then we're going to exit because we don't want to do anything else. It's not HTTP method, it's request method. So if the form is submitting as a post request, then we're okay. Otherwise, if it's not, then we just want to say no data submitted and don't do anything. And the nice thing about when we have includes here like this is that we can actually we actually still have access to any of the variables. So collection is now available here. So we can say insert one. With insert one, we're going to create a document here, and the document can be represented here as an array. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, we want this to say result here. And so let's open this form up again. And over here we have name, email, response required, and question, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one field for each. Name, and we'll say email, and we'll say response required, and we'll say question. So now, you're like, well, why are those arrows there? Well, essentially you can do multi-cursor mode, and then you can say post. Boom, look at that. That's so much fun. Now you could hypothetically just take whatever post data comes in and stick it in your database. Instead of putting this in here, right? Instead of doing this, you could just do post. But the problem with that is that, you don't ever want to trust the user data. Like, they could modify this form in their browser to add all kinds of stuff, and then you just take that data, whatever it comes in as, and you put it in your database. That I wouldn't trust that. Then what we can do is we can say, let's say ID, get inserted. If no ID, echo something went wrong. Otherwise, and we'll exit here if we don't have something went wrong. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to leave that, and we're the PHP execution environment, and we're just going to say h1, thanks for your feedback, comma, echo HTML entities, post name, h1. Your unique ticket ID is PHP echo string. We have to convert the ID into a string because it's actually an object. We have now created a really simple insertion thing for our form here. So when a user comes to our site and submits this form, it's going to send it to insert.php. Insert.php is going to check to make sure that there's actually request data coming in, like submitted from the form. And then if it is, it's going to include the environment, which does all the boilerplate getting set up with the Mongo client. And then we're going to actually do the process of actually inserting the submitted information into the database. Then we're going to retrieve the inserted ID from the result. We're going to check to make sure that it actually has an ID. Otherwise, something went wrong, and we'll exit. And finally, we thank you for your feedback. So let's try this. This should work. I don't see any reason why it doesn't. Fingers crossed. So we have env.php. We don't need form.html. We're going to say Gardiner. Test at linodians.net. Does your issue require a response? Yeah, it does. What's your issue? What's the issue you're experiencing? I don't have a managed database yet. There we go. So you can see here, this is the actual MongoDB ID. So now that the ticket database has some tickets in it, or at least one ticket, let's go ahead and create a file. We're just going to say read.php. And we're going to say PHP. We're going to say require, and we're going to say env.php. Tickets equals collection find. And we can just leave empty parameters here, and it'll find every file or every document in the database. And then we can do a for each for tickets as ticket. And we can then echo tr td. And so we're going to do a multi-line echo here. Now, this is not how I typically write PHP. I don't like this, but this is the quick and dirty way of doing it. And because we want to do things at least sort of right, we're actually gonna do some quick and dirty other stuff here. So we're just gonna say HTML entities. because we don't trust user data. Actually, what we should do is even do this. We can say ID, and we need to convert that to a string. All right. So now if we go to index.php, oh, I didn't call it index, I called it read. Boom, look at that. And if we really wanted to be fancy, we could say table, tr, th, and it would be ID. And then we can put this table down here. And so now we have a table where we can see all of the tickets in the database. So if we were to go to another form.html, so if we were to say Terry tests at example.com, what's the issue you're experiencing? So then we can say some other issue. Hit send, boom. Now it's in the database. If we go back here, hit refresh, boom, look at that. Boom, look at that. Boom, look at that. But what happens if I want to add a new field? Let's say that we want to add a phone number if we want to contact someone that way. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go to form. And right here, we're just going to go ahead and copy this bad boy down to another line. And we'll say phone, type phone, name phone. So the nice thing about this is that all we have to do is modify a couple of these. And we'll say phone. Well, whatever. Phone. Up here. And then if we go back to the read directory, we can just go here. Say phone. And copy this line. And say phone. Or nothing, because phone might not exist, right? So if we hit this, there's nothing there. Now if we go back and we refresh, now there's a phone number. So let's say John Johnson. No, not John Johnson, John Johnstone. There you go. John at Johnstone Plumbing and heating.org. And then I can put in a phone number, 207-555-1123. And we'll say, what's your issue? What's the experience? Not enough heat. Hit send. There you go. Thanks for your feedback, John Johnstone. Your unique ticket ID is this. If we go over here, we will see that John Johnstone is now in our database. Booyah. See that? That's super cool. So what if we want to delete one of these bad boys here? That's a great question. And doing that is actually relatively simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another thing here. So we're going to say delete. Okay. And this is just a user interface convenience that I'm adding here. And we're going to copy the ticket string. And we're actually going to make a form in here. Action is going to be delete.php query ID equals, and then we're going to do the string. Okay, so this might be a little hard to follow, but you'll see. I'll show you in the debugger when I've got this. And then we're going to do method equals get. We don't have to do that, but we're going to. And then we can say delete. We're going to say button type submit delete. And then we're going to say slash button slash form. So now, boom, we now have a delete button. And if we look at the code here, so we'll click on this, Click that. So we have delete.php and then the ID, okay? And then we have the method of get. And then the button is actually just going to submit this form, okay? So now we're going to actually create delete.php. So let's right click here, delete.php. We're going to right click and we're going to say if is set, if not set, get ID. No, we're going to echo no ID, no document specified for deletion. And then we're going to exit. We're going to actually turn the string ID back into a object. So we're going to say underscore ID equals new MongoDB /beson /object ID. And then we're going to do get ID. So this get parameter is the query. Right here we have the query, so ID is that. So if no ID, exit. Otherwise, we have no valid ID. Otherwise, then we're going to do what we came here to do, and we're actually going to we're going to do result equals collection. Oh, I need to include this here, so we're going to include env.php, right? Okay, so now we're going to result equals collection delete one, and we need to specify that we're looking for an ID that matches underscore ID here. So then we're going to check if result equals get deleted count 1 header. We're going to return them back to read.php because that's where they came from. And we're going to exit here because otherwise if we don't, then it's not going to actually reload. And then otherwise we're going to say echo could not delete file document. So now we can, because Johnstone Plumbing and Heating.org is a long name, we can actually hit delete here. And if I did it right, it should return us here, and this should be missing. No document specified for deletion, of course. Why is that? So let's do it a different way. We're going to do input type hidden ID equals that. And this is going to be name value, and then name equals ID. Right? Does that work? Is that going to do it? Call to undefined method. Oh, it's deleted count. So that would be here. Get deleted count. And so this should be deleted now. Yeah, it is. I just called the wrong function. So if we want to delete Terry as well, boom, there. See that? Look at that. How cool is that? That's really cool. I like doing database stuff. It's awesome. So we could also do the same idea here if we wanted to make some kind of edit form, right? So let's go ahead and we're going to expand this slightly. So we're going to go to read, and we're going to do kind of the same idea here, except we're going to do edit. And then the method is get. The input type is hidden, right? We're going to do edit. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to make an edit.php. Boom. Now, This is going to be one of the more complicated things that we've done so far. So we have PHP, and we're going to include environment.php, and then we're going to do document collection find one, and we should do a little bit of error handling. So if not set get ID echo, that is not a valid ID, and then we exit. Okay, now we have our ID, so now we can just do underscore ID equals new MongoDB Beeson object ID get ID. So now we should have, if we have a valid ID, we should have the document here, the one that we're looking up. And then we're going to come down here, and we need to set a value for each of these. So we're going to click on this right here, right here, right here, and we're going to do this. And I really don't like PHP's syntax for this kind of stuff, but and it's why I've actually written my own templating engine in PHP. So we're going to say echo, and we're going to do document, and then we're going to come back over here, and we're just going to grab this value. And we're also going to want to do a little bit of HTML entities here. Boom. So that we don't want people injecting stuff in here. We want to do value equals, and then inside this, we're going to do quotes or around that. And then here, we're going to do checked equals, and we're going to say PHP, and we need to determine if it's on or off. So we can just say, let's just say checked, and then we'll make checked up here. So if document response required equals on, then checked is going to equal, otherwise checked is just going to be an empty string. Okay. Lame, but it'll work. And then we'll come back down here. We don't actually need this anymore. All right, for God's sakes. Now, what we're doing here is we're checking if the document response required is on, because an HTML checkbox doesn't send like a true or false thing. If it's checked, then the value is on. If it's not checked, it doesn't send anything, which is super obnoxious. So what we're doing here is we're checking if the response required is on. And if it is on, then we're setting checked to equal checked equals checked as an HTML attribute. It's fun and obnoxious, and it's why I've built my own templating engine. But now we have edit. Oh, I need to do this here too. Let's do edit, boom, and now we have an edit column and a delete column. So if I did it right, we should be able to hit edit, defined array key phone. Oh, what? Oh yeah, or nothing, right? Because there we go. So now we have all the values here. So if I wanted to, oh wait, oh right, because text area, so this needs to not be a value. I bet a bunch of people were like, Gardner, you're doing the text area wrong. Yeah, I know. I know now. Why didn't you tell me sooner, guys? Jeez. So the text area stuff needs to go inside the text area tag rather than as a value. So now we can refresh, and there it is. So now we have this stuff set. So we can let's do a couple tests here and see if we get this correct. So 555 444 1212. We'll hit send. But that actually probably isn't right. If we go to read, you'll see that we now have two Gardiners with the same thing. So what happened is we're actually duplicating our data, which we don't want to do. Duplication is not the right thing to do. So let's go to edit. And you can see here that the problem is that this form is actually sending to insert.php. We don't want that. What we want is an update.php. So we're going to do update.php, and we're going to set this to be update instead of insert. But the next thing we need to do is actually go to input type equals hidden, name is going to be ID, and value is going to be, we're going to do PHP echo, and we don't need to do any HTML entities on this because our server defined it. Document ID, and we need to again typecast to a string. So now we have the way to actually look this up. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to copy the insert.php, and we're going to paste it all right here into update.php. And again, this is not the way I like to write code. This is just like a quick and dirty implementation. I've said that a bunch of times. Don't you love it when I say quick and dirty? But we need to change a few things here, right? Method is post, that's fine. Environment, that's fine. But right here, what we need to do is actually change this to update one. And then the first parameter here needs to be the criteria for actually selecting the document we're going to update. So we're going to do underscore ID, and we're going to do post, we're going to do ID, but because that's a string, we need to actually convert it to a document ID. So we're going to do new MongoDB Beeson object ID. There we go. That ought to do. And that should be everything we need here. So there's one other thing you can do, and that is going to be allowing upsertion. So upsertion is going to be, if there is no document that matches this criteria, do we want it to create the document or fail silently and not update anything? So you can say upsert true, the default is false. And so if you upsert something, if this document doesn't exist, it will be created. Yeah, pretty fun stuff. So we're then gonna go get modified counted, right? Modified count, and if count equals 0, something went wrong. Cool. So that should work, right? So we have two options here. I'm going to delete this one, and we're going to go into here. And what I want to do is add a phone number and change this response required to off. So if we go like this, we're going to say 555-444-1212, change this to off, and hit send. Oh, right. So there are multiple ways that you can actually update a document. I forgot to do this because I'm a silly goose. So the first key in your second parameter actually needs to be some kind of what they call a top-level operator. And so set is actually going to say, it's going to take the fields that are in this document and set them to these values. Okay, so having set here is going to make it so that when we go, you can see here that it's on and we don't have a phone number still. Now I have it, we had the phone number and the thing off here. If we hit send, now something went wrong. Did it though? No, it didn't, because my error checking is wrong. Oh my gosh, that's the problem. It says do not count equals 0. Okay, so now if we go here and we go back to edit, let's change this to 333222, and then does. I fixed it. Hit send. Your ticket ID. Undefined variable ID. Oh yeah. Yeah, we don't have an ID. We don't want to do that. Your ticket was updated. Cool. So now if we go here, you can see it's on again. We changed it to 3322. I fixed it. Full create, read, update, and destroy. Really cool stuff. So I hope you can see that this is actually a really powerful tool. Doing managed databases with Linode is like super simple to get set up with and really easy to get started. I'm a big fan. I'm going to see about how I can integrate managed databases into my company's workflow, because I think that hosting it myself is not my favorite thing. It's kind of scary, because to be honest, if you set up a Mongo database on Ubuntu, then you have to do all of the security stuff yourself. It doesn't come with, passwords and certificates and everything set up for you automatically. You have to do all that yourself. Having a managed database like this on Linode is actually really helpful. But I think that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, hanging out with me, doing some cool programming stuff. I really appreciate spending time with you guys. If you like these videos, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps this channel out. You can also subscribe to the Linode YouTube channel to see more awesome and fascinating, cool, nerdy stuff just like this video. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.